that we will be covering today is dot mandala. Dot mandala is one of the oldest art forms of India. It is also very relaxing and meditative. So the dot mandala needs some tools. So these are the smaller size of tools of dot mandala. The tips are of different sizes. They have different sizes on both of the sides, and there are also larger sizes for larger circles. It also varies from largest size to the smallest size. You can also use tools which are available at your house. You can use the back side of the brushes, or you can remove the bristle part of the brushes and you can use the wooden part which is left behind. Or you can also use Q-tips for dot mandala. So let's take a closer look at the tools. So these are the tools that are used for bigger dots. They vary from a long range of sizes, and also there are these smaller tools that are used for smaller details, and also they make the mandala look very intricate. So these tools have two tips. One is the side which has larger tips, and the other side has a little bit of smaller tips. So this is the smallest size of the tip, and this is the largest size of the tip. As you can see, it varies for a great circumference. So many colors can be used for dot mandala. The one which I am going to be using today are the Fevicryl acrylic colors. The acrylic colors get dry very easily. So for that you can either store them in upside down. They don't get dry that easily, because if you store them like this, the color settles down and it dries quickly. The another tip is when you are doing dot mandala, always remember to keep the lid closed. Acrylic colors also tend to get very thick, so dot mandala needs a very perfect consistency. As you can see, the color is very thin. You can even add some baby powder to it to make it thick, or if it is very thick, you can either use water to make it thin, or there are also some special pouring mediums to make it thin. So let's look at some minor needs for dot mandala. So the next thing that you will need is a palette. This palette is very shallow. It doesn't hold the color so that you can dip the tool in it. So I tend to use the palettes that are deep, so I can dip the tools in it. You also need a compass to take the measurements and make circles for your dot mandala. So to make a symmetrical dot mandala, you need some scale. You can either use a bigger one which is of 30 centimeters, or you can use a smaller one which are of 15 centimeters. And then you need a pencil. Remember to keep your pencil sharp because it holds point. You can also use a HB pencil, it works light. And you need a brush to remove some color on the palette, and also to make the dots a bit smooth if you need it to. And there are various things that you can use for bases. The acrylic paints go on bottles, canvases and many other things. You can use it on tea coasters or wooden surfaces like this, or you can also use a canvas. So today I'm going to be showing you a mandala on these coasters. So this is the coaster that I have did earlier, and you can also use this to paint a kitchen. So dot mandala 2 has some basic patterns. These are the basic patterns, and I have also did a design with them. You can also do mandala on black paper. The color really pops up on it. And if you are a beginner, I advise you using a paper more than 200 GSM because it holds the acrylic good. So the paper that I have used right now is of 70 GSM. So first let us look at how to draw these basic shapes. But first, let us look at how these tools work. So first we are going to look how to use these bigger tools. So these are all of different sizes, and we are going to look at them one by one. So for the demonstration, we are going to need acrylics. Then I'm going to use a brush. Next, we need some water to rinse our tools. And here are the tools. These are the bigger ones, and these are the smaller ones. Then we are going to need a palette. As I said, I'm going to use this palette. And lastly, you need a cotton cloth to wipe off the excess water of the tools and the brushes. So let's start with the demonstration. First, I'm using the yellow color. I'm going to remove some yellow color in the palette. You need a lot of yellow because your tool needs to dip in it, and if the tool is not covered with paint properly, it will not leave a circular dot. And lastly, wipe off the excess water in the brush. Remember to close the bottle tightly, or else the acrylic will get dry. So first I'm going to use the biggest tool. I'm going to dip it in the color and make sure that the tool is covered properly from all the sides. Now I'm going to just touch the paper gently with the tool. So it left a beautiful circular dot. Now let us wash the tool. It's important to keep the tools clean, or else the residue of the acrylic will get the tool circumference wet. So now the next tool that I'm going to be using is a slightly smaller in the size. Let's dip the tool in here and check whether it is properly covered with the color or not. Gently tap it on the paper. going to use red color. Let's dip the tool in here. It is of the smaller size than the previous one. Again, I'm going to gently tap the paper with the tool just once. Remove the excess color of the tool. Remember to use a cotton cloth because cotton cloth soaks in the water and the tool is not remain wet. So next let's take the tool which is the smaller in size than the previous one. Let's dip it in the red color and tap it gently again. And wash away the excess color. If the color of the is remain there and it gets dry, you can wash it away with the hot water, or you can either use a hand sanitizer or a cleaner to clean it. Let's again dip the tool in it. In the color, it is slightly smaller than the previous one. Let us wash the excess color away. So next, the next tool that I'm going to be using does not has the design. It's a plain rod. Let's dip it in the color. And wash the excess color off. So now let's take the next color, that is going to be green. You can also get airtight palettes if you want to, because the color doesn't dry in it if you close it. Or you can either buy small containers. They are smaller than the bottles. You can remove the color from the bottles in the containers and then you can use it. And also clean the brush thoroughly, because if the acrylic gets dry on it, it will not come off easily. On to the next color. So this rod is also slightly smaller than the size than the previous one. Let's wash it off. washing the rod off 2 times because you have to make sure the rod is not left with any acrylic residue. So now onto the smallest rod, that is of this size. As you can see, it is pretty smaller than the first rod. So now let's dip it in the color and gently tap it on the paper. Moving on to the next set of the tools. As I said, these tools have two different sides for each tool, and they are of different sizes. So now let's test each of them one by one. So the biggest is this green one. So I'm going to just dip it into yellow color, and I'm going to hold the tool upright. If the tool is slanted, it will form a oval. You can also get a circle, but it's not easy to use when you hold it upright like this. As you can see, it is a lot smaller than the ones that we used before because it is used for minor details and filling up the empty space. So the next largest one that I found was this blue one. Let's dab it in the color and onto the paper. So these tools might look that they are almost the same size, but they have a slight variation in them. As you can see, the green compared to the blue is pretty big, but the dots are almost same. Cause when I took the green one, it was filled with only little paint, and that's why it had a bit smaller circumference compared to the blue one, which had extra paint on it, and so the circumference was large, and you cannot see the difference in them. It's almost the same. So now the next one is this white one. Let us dab it in the paint too. I'm going to use the green paint for this one. Let's dab it onto the paper. So again, there's a slight variation in the color. Let's clean the tool. And the next tool is the yellow one. So you again can see a slight variation. Now if you compare the first dot with this one, you can see that this is much smaller. So now moving on to the last, I've used the 4 tips. Now this is the 5th tip, which is the last, if you just hold it on one side. Okay, again there's a slight variation in it, and I'm going to clean the tool with water. If the paints are too thick, as I said, you can also use pouring medium, like you can use Bristol's pouring medium and thing. And if the paint is too thin, you can use some baby powder, or you can use some soft gel. So we have finished one side. Now moving on to the tips of the other side. So the first one is of course the green one, which has the biggest tip, has the biggest tip of the small size. Okay, so but right now I'm going to use another color, that is deep brilliant purple. It almost looks like as if it's pink, but once I get it down on the paper, you can see that it's purple. So let's take some paint in the palette, remove off the excess paint from the brush and wash it away, and lastly wipe it off, and also remember to close off the bottle. Okay, so now let's get on to the other side of the green one. Also you need to check that the color is has covered the surface of the round like it did for the flat ones. So the on to the next one. The next one is the blue one. So we did this step, now it's time for this step. So get it into the acrylic and then it onto the paper. Okay, now you see a slight variation here. It's slightly smaller than the before one, and now get off the excess residue of the color. On to the next one. So next one was the white one that we used before. So this is the tip that we used. Now we are going to use this tip again in the purple, deep brilliant purple on the paper. So now as you can see, the tool was not covered with the color properly, so it left a ring sort of design. Okay, so that's pretty small if you see compared to the first one. And now on to the next one, that was the yellow one. So into the paint on the paper. As you can see, it's pretty small. And now for the last one, which is the smallest, we used this tip. Now we're going to use this tip. So this is the smallest size that you can get from the tools. Okay, it's pretty small if you see compared to the first one. Wipe off the excess residue of the paint. Okay. So now let's get in the basic designs that I showed you. So the first one that we are going to be doing is this one, and it has one large circle and then smaller circles in it. So to create this design, this design takes a lot of time, even though it looks simple, because it needs to dry off. So first I'm going to take the biggest tool, that is the green one, dab it into the paint. Okay, so the paint is dry now because it was out for a long time. So I'm just going to wash off the dry residue that was in the palette, and let us remove some more of the deep brilliant blue because it still is wet, but it's not enough. Let's get the excess paint of the brush, wash the brush and dry it off. so now we need to get layers on it, but the paint is slightly higher compared to the other sides in the middle. So we'll just smooth that out with the brush. Smooth it out so that the other layers go perfectly on this one. So the paint is now smoothed out. Make sure that it is uniformed on all the sides of the circle. So till the time that it dries up, let's get into the next one. Okay, so this one is a bit different, and so first I'm gonna take some green paint and I'm going to use the purple rod, dab it onto in the green paint and get it on the paper. Need to get some excess paint in the circle. Remember that the circumference should not increase. Just take the paint and slightly dab it on the circle. Okay, so now the circle is pretty much filled over with the paint. Now I'm going to take the smallest. Now let's take the smallest tool and drag the paint downwards. You can also use a toothpick for this. So actually the paint got dried, so it's forming of dry residue on it. So I'm just going to add some more paint onto the paper, and also remember that there should be a lot of paint so that it doesn't form creases. Wipe off the brush, clean up the tool, and let's get on to the next dot. So I'm again going to use this into the paint, onto the paper, slightly just a bit lower than previous. It's slightly attached to the first one, and let's get off the paint. And again, let's take over smallest size of get it down here, and remember to keep a slight gap in the standing what do you call them, swipe and the slanting swipe. And then the last dot. Get this So that was the next design. So the next design that we're gonna do is a pretty simple one. So for that, what we need is a slightly bigger tool than the one which we used right now, which is the blue one. And let's get this into the paint. So the paint is right now, so I'm going to use another paint that is the orange. Okay, so let's dip our blue tool in the color. It's covered and get it down on the paper. Slight touch and you get a beautiful circle. Let's wash off the excess paint. Then we need a smaller tool to get 4 dots on the 4 sides. So I'm gonna use the back tip of the this green tool, and let's get this into the paper. And remember to get the tool into the paint each time. Otherwise, the paint will get smaller and smaller. The circles will get smaller and smaller as the paint reduces. So yeah, this can also be used as a design. Next, again I'm gonna take some paint, but right now we need another paint because this design has 2 main elements, and the paint that I'm going to be using is the blue, and this is ultramarine blue. This almost looks like ink. So let's get it off. Close the bottle. And again I'm gonna use a slightly bigger one than the blue one, and that is the pink one. Into the bottle on the paper. So I took blue because I feel like the opposite color to orange, and it goes pretty well with orange. So just that the combination looks good, I took blue. Okay, so the tool which I'm going to be using is the biggest step of the green one, because the circles are gonna get smaller and smaller. Get it filled with the color. So this needs a bit of practice on the paper. I'm going to make this circle a bit bigger. And now, without taking more color, I'm just going to bring it down here. And as you can see a pretty good variation of the color. Same on the other side. And then I'm going to take some more color. can also draw a straight line if you want. Okay, so the next design is pretty simple one. Again, I'm gonna take some paint, and this time I'm going to take a drop, and this is a bit different. Again, we're creating the bigger to smaller circles, but this time the circle are going to be big, and for that we need a bigger tool, and I'm going to use this flat tools for this. So I have the 3 smallest of the flat tools. I'm going to tap on the first tool on the palette, get it down on the paper, and keep it in water so that it doesn't get dry. And the next one. Okay, again I'm gonna get my biggest tool of the round ones back on the paper, and as you can see the variation now. Just put down. So if you cannot are not able to create the small dots from this technique, you can either take another tool that has probably a smaller size of the round, or you can use, if you don't get the tool, you can either use the tip of the pencil or the back of a nail or any other sharp thing to get your smallest dot. Okay, so now the tools are clean. I'm next going to make another design. This one, for this one we need a circle, and for that, which I'm gonna use is the blue one. But for this one I need one more color, that is going to be the pink. Removing it on the pink that was on the palette before. Because of course I don't have much more spaces. It's almost full. Just has one empty space. I don't think I'm gonna use that one. Let's try the brush. And again, close the bottle. Okay, let's use our blue tool again, dip it in the water onto the paper. Okay, so for this one, this is going to be the centerpiece. I'm gonna get this a bit downwards. Okay, so now you got a circle. If you want, you can smooth it off, but I'm not gonna wear it with anything else, so I'm just gonna leave it like that. Next one I'm gonna use is probably the smallest one of the flats. So I'm gonna dip it in the orange onto the paper and just bring it down like that. It will eventually get smaller, but you need to take some more paint and you get the shape. I'm gonna go over it one more time, and I'm gonna touch the bigger circle onto the pink one. Again, I'm gonna do it on the other side. So actually, if you want, you can use these shapes in your dot mandala, but you can also create dot mandala with only dots. So it's not necessary that you need to use all these shapes in your mandala. So I'm gonna try to make it as identical as possible. pretty similar. I can't say that it's the same, but they do look pretty similar. Let's get the biggest round tool that we have, and I'm gonna create the design right over here. This design over here. Clean of the tool, and I'm going to take another color, that is the blue one, on the paper. You can also bring it down with a toothpick or the smallest round circle that you have, or any other thing that you want, but right now I'm gonna do it with this tool only. On the other side, I'm gonna do the same thing. Okay, you can even create variation with this brush, but it actually is a different technique. You need to handle your pressure for that. Pressure that you give on the tool to apply the dot onto the paper. So the next one is pretty interesting one. Again, I'm gonna use the biggest flat rod, which doesn't have design. So let's dip it into the color. Wash the excess paint away, and then I'm gonna get this tool, biggest round tool, and for this I'm gonna use the light green. So I have light green with me. This probably looks like the poster green in the poster colors, but it's like in the acrylic. So let's feel our smallest and the last what do you call it, compartment of a palette. This is roll off and close the bottom. Put my tool in the palette. Again, I'm gonna do the same thing. Now I'm gonna take a layer on top of it, but this circle is going to be slightly larger in size compared to the previous ones, because we need to get it all the way down. They're so good. I just love the combination of these two colors. So this looks like you can call it a petal, or you can call it the feather of a peacock. And again, I'm gonna dab it onto in the pink. And that was the last basic shape that we were gonna draw. But before that, we need to complete this one. Okay, so we need to complete this one. Again, I'm gonna go with another color on top of that, but now with a smaller rod. I'm gonna use the pink one. Okay, so this is a perfect size, I think. I'm gonna get the green color. So this probably went on top of the pink, so it isn't that good of a circle. It looks a bit of a different shape, but it's okay. I'm just gonna smooth out the circle again, because we need to get a third layer on top of it. So let's wait till it gets dry. And now let's put the last dot on our pattern. So these are the basic patterns that we are going to use on our tea coasters. I'm just gonna paint the coasters black. Let's get this out. This green. Okay. So before painting the coasters black, I'm gonna keep a paper below it. Now I have my black color, and I'm going to use a flat brush, so no strokes are seen. I have this flat brush. I'm gonna use it. I'm probably gonna remove some black onto the palette. Okay, and now I'm gonna just apply the black paint on the coaster. You can use this coaster as just to decorate your house, or you can apply some Mod Podge or varnish to it after it gets dry. And acrylics tend to have a long period of time to get dry. They take a lot of time to get dry. So I've gone with the strokes at first. Next time I'm gonna paint it again with the second layer. I'm gonna go this way so that no strokes are seen. Okay, I'm just trying to take off some excess paint off the coaster. Why waste? So I'm gonna use the same paint over here. So we painted two coasters with one dip in the acrylic paint. And now I'm again going to take some black and apply it over here on this way. Again, I'm gonna go this way. And even go like that. can wait till this gets dry because we probably need to give a second coat. Remember that black takes a lot of time to get off the brush, as you can see here. Now we are going to give second coat over our tea coasters. Now let's start dot painting the coasters. So we are going to paint the coasters like this and this.